Hello, and welcome to another episode of 50 Shades of Gray Hair. I know it looks like I don't have gray hair, but I really do. I'm a senior myself, and this show is dedicated to older adults, seniors, 55, 65 plus. We're going to be addressing issues that are very, very vitally important to those of us who are in the golden years. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you will share this with somebody else before we start our talk today. And I have a very special guest. We're going to be talking about kind of a questionable subject and topic, although one that needs to be addressed. It's about death and dying with dignity. And my special guest today is not only a dear friend, she's from Orange County, California, and she is a certified doula giver specialist. And I'm going to let her tell you what her background is, her extensive medical background, and how she got into this, and what exactly is a doula caregiver. Hello, Karen.
Thank you and hello. And it's so wonderful to be here across the country from you,
I know, isn't
from
it
Ohio to
amazing?
California. I love it.
Now,
But
Karen,
thank you
you're
so much
originally
for
from,
inviting me.
sorry, you're originally from Cleveland, are you not?
I am. I'm from Cleveland and I moved
Great.
to Southern California in 1995. So I've been here a
Okay.
while.
Okay.
And yes, I miss Cleveland. I miss the change in the seasons, but yeah, but I'm glad to be here with all of you.
Well, thank
And
you for
thank you.
coming.
And, certified doula specialist is kind of a mouthful, isn't it? And yes, and what it actually means is that I'm a holistic, non-medical, full spectrum, end of life practitioner.
Wow, now that's a
So
mouthful, Karen.
that's a mouthful
Can you
too.
repeat that again?
Okay. So that is a holistic, non-medical, full spectrum, end of life practitioner.
Awesome. Love it. Okay,
So
go
I
ahead.
work with people who have a life-threatening illness, and I'm a former hospice nurse. So
Mhm.
I started out as a labor and delivery nurse.
Oh, that's
So
right.
I got my degree as an LVN back in Cleveland, Ohio, many years ago.
Oh,
And I worked med surg at first. One of the first patients I ever took care of was a nun.
oh, amazing.
And I just really enjoyed her, and I enjoyed walking through the death process with her when she
Yeah.
was dying. And it was very difficult for her. She was very young, and
Oh,
her mother was also on one of the floors at university hospitals, and her mother was dying as well.
oh dear.
So that was such a sacred experience for me. And that's what
Okay.
I want everybody to come away with, that death is a sacred experience. In
Amen.
our culture today, we don't look at it that way.
That's right.
But I wanted to start out by saying there's 54 million unpaid caregivers that are taking care of their families that have an end of life illness. 70% of those people say that they're overwhelmed.
Of course.
It's a big job and it's really hard to take care of them. So what I do as a doula is I help families and I help the community as well to navigate the aging process and end of life. And I provide skills, resources, and compassionate support so the caregivers and the families can feel confident about the care that they're giving and feel peaceful and feel walk away from that experience knowing that they did everything they possibly could. And
Yes.
unfortunately, there isn't anybody teaching
Right.
people. There's nobody
How to be
teaching
a
the
caregiver.
caregivers
Yes.
how to be a caregiver.
Right.
Now, the subject comes up a lot where people will say, well, what about hospice? Because I'm not hospice.
Mhm.
I'm a doula, and the doula started the actual practice of being a doula actually started here in the United States in the 2000s when hospices realized that there was a gap in care. The reason why there's a gap in care is because people don't realize that hospice isn't there all the time. There's a hospice nurse that comes, maybe she's there for an hour twice a week.
They were intermittent.
they're intermittent, and then there's a
Right.
social worker and there's clergy and there's a home health aide that comes, but they're not there all the time. So
Right.
these hospices started using volunteers, and they said they were volunteer doulas. They weren't actually doulas like I am, but they were addressed as volunteer doulas. Volunteers for hospice are regulated to only be there for 4 hours a week.
Oh, I did not know
So,
that.
so again, we have this gap in care and families in crisis and needing somebody to be there to support them. So
Okay.
that's what a doula does. And there's all kinds of things that we do. We are a companion. We suggest interventions when it comes to comfort. We're
Mhm.
helping with the vigil. So the vigil is the last 24 to 48 hours of life. So we're there helping with that. If they don't have their advanced directives done, if they have not chosen somebody to be their healthcare proxy, then we help with that as well. And hopefully that's done by the time we come on the scene. But a lot of times it's not. Before I start working with families, or in addition to working with families, I'm also helping people get all their directives in order and do that. And it's called a peace of mind planner. That's what we call it,
I
peace of mind
like
planner,
that, and that's very, very
because
true.
yeah, once you get that done, you feel like, okay, I've chosen my healthcare proxy. I've written down all the things I want. I've said that, I have a DNR in there as well. So we have that all done. So you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Karen, let me stop you for just a second because I get these
Sure.
questions often about what
Hmm.
is needed when you're caring for somebody who's in their last days, weeks, whatever might be
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
hospice. You're telling me that you can assist with the paperwork. Is there legal paperwork? Does an attorney have to be involved with all of this?
Well, that's such a good question.
Yeah.
I will tell you that an advance directive, and also for those who don't know, I'd like you to look up a dementia directive. So you go to
Okay.
dementiadirective.org. And that's something new that only came about a couple years ago. And that's for all of us to fill that out. You don't have to have dementia now, but you're
Okay.
telling your doctor what you would want if you do have dementia. I don't want to be fed. If I have dementia and I can't eat by myself, I don't want to be fed. I don't want to linger for years being fed. So back to your question. So an advance directive and the dementia directive, they are not legal. A doctor can change his mind about what you have in there.
Oh,
But the
oh,
whole reason why we want you to fill that out is I have my families fill out the advance directive after I've given them a workbook. So they get a workbook to go over what their quality of life is, what they want,
mhm.
and then we fill it out, and then we have a family meeting. So everybody's on the same page.
Awesome.
So there's no questions. There's no, well, I don't really like that. Let's say your family doesn't like what you put in your advance directive. Then I would say get a notary to sign that.
For sure. In fact, I thought
Yeah.
you had to have an
No,
advance
you
directive
don't
for a
have to have a
DNR,
notary.
but a DNR,
You
no?
don't have to have that, but
What
it's
about a
good to
power
have
of
it.
attorney? What about a power of
You
attorney?
you
Doesn't it
don't
have to
have to
be?
have that. You don't have to have that for a lot of them. You don't have to have that.
Okay, good to know. I'm telling
Yeah.
everybody they
Hmm.
have to get a power of attorney.
Well, it's safe. It's better.
Of course.
It's better
Yeah.
to be on that side of it. The only one that is signed by a doctor is a pulsed. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a pulsed,
Never heard of it.
but a pulsed
How
is
are you spelling
something.
that, honey?
It's POLST,
Okay,
and
first time
that's
I'm
a
hearing that.
physician's orders. It's a physician orders for life-sustaining treatment. So that
Oh,
is filled out, and it's a pink sheet. It's this bright pink color. So can you
okay.
see that? So it's a
Yeah.
bright pink color, and you put that on your refrigerator, but the doctor signs that. So
Oh,
you go over your wishes, and this is for people who are end stage or have a debilitating disorder. They'll want to have their doctor fill that out with them. So
okay.
that's very important to have that done.
Have not
But it's
heard of that. Okay.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a post. And
Good for
so, what
you.
I wanted to say is when I was pregnant with my son, we're switching gears here now. So, when I was pregnant with my son, I went out and I bought books and I talked to other people who'd had babies and I got information. And then I went to Lamaze class. I didn't go to Lamaze class when I went into labor,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So, my point is, we're not really getting ready for end of
We're
life.
not
We're
prepared.
we're waiting until it's chaotic, until
Right.
there's confusion, until there's panic before we go, oh, maybe I
Exactly.
need to get this paperwork done. And sometimes it's too late.
Exactly. And
So
I
if
see
I
this
have,
happen. Yeah.
yes, if I have a family and I had a patient when I was on hospice that was 95 years old, I
Mhm.
was called out to the home to start hospice.
Wow.
95 years old, taking their last breath. Now,
Oh,
I wanted to get that person on hospice just because I knew that we would do bereavement for the family afterwards.
okay.
But it's very hard to do that. And I remember asking the family, "Where's the paperwork?" There was none. I said, "Do you want tell me what the funeral home is? We don't have one."
Right. Right.
There was no decisions made. The furniture, was very cluttered. Everything was there. And the greatest gift that you can give to your family is do your advance directive and
Exactly.
also start
Exactly.
cleaning out your house.
Right.
European countries start doing this in their 50s.
Really
They give
interesting.
away they give away items to their
Yeah.
family that mean a lot to them, and they start clearing away the clutter. And I'll tell you why. I've seen people that have passed away, their family members have passed away, and
Mhm.
then they're in shock, but yet they're left with all this stuff to go
And where
through.
do they go from here?
Where do they go from here? And the memories of all the stuff they're having to go through. It's like a scab that you just keep ripping off over and over
Right.
again
It's
every time.
traumatic. It can be very
It
traumatic.
is very traumatic. So, as a former hospice nurse, I saw a lot of things like that had happened.
I'm
And,
sure.
the average length of stay on hospice isn't very long. And that is one of the challenges. So, what is some of the biggest challenges for families? And that is they're getting referred so late to hospice.
Yes. Yes.
And that brings up a book that I want to talk about. I don't know if you've ever heard of this book, Atal Gawande, Being Mortal. It's
No.
such an amazing book because he's a doctor.
Oh.
And so he wrote a book, and if you go on, I think it's PBS on Frontline,
Hmm.
they did a documentary on him, and he was saying that he was not, he wasn't trained to let people go, and letting people go is a failure. And that's why we
Oh.
hear people, doctors saying to people, well, you need to keep fighting. What are you fighting for?
Yes.
Think about that. If you're being told you need to keep fighting, then you're not doing it right.
Yes. Right. I
If
agree.
you're if you're declining and you can't eat and you can't walk and you have no quality of life, but you're told to keep fighting, that that isn't right. So
No.
he wrote a book on that, and he wrote a book on how we need, how our culture, we want to give people so many choices.
Yes.
It's like you go to the grocery store, or the drugstore, and you're standing in front of hundreds of different types of toothpaste. That's a terrible analogy, but you know what I mean? Like, well,
Too
you can
many
do
choices.
this
When I go
this
to, I'm saying too many
experimental, and you could
choices.
do
Yeah.
this and you could do that. And
Right.
I went to a family's home that was started on doula. They weren't sure if they wanted to have a doula, and they
Mhm.
did not have hospice on board. And he had cancer, and he was only being kept alive by a treatment that he was getting.
Okay.
And he could not make up his mind. He knew if he stopped this treatment, he would probably die, probably within a month or so. And so the family was there, and I was explaining to them what hospice does, and I was explaining them to what I did. And then I leaned over and I said to him, "What do you think your quality of life is like?" And he just fell apart
Oh,
because, trying to get in the car to go to the hospital to get his treatment was extremely painful,
Exhausting too. Exhausting.
exhausting. And so he
Yeah.
decided right then and there that they would go on hospice. But he said something very interesting to me. He said, I think what I want to do, because he didn't want to burden his family, and so many people who are dying, they don't want to burden their family. And
Right.
then I have the family saying, I wish they'd let me help them more. And
Yes.
then the
Yeah.
patient's saying, I don't want to be a burden. So he said he wanted to go to the hospital to die.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, I'm just going to go check into the hospital to die.
Aw.
And I don't know of any hospital that you can check
That would
into
allow
to go
you,
die.
yeah,
And
to do that.
but what he had heard, and a lot of people hear this, is sometimes they'll have a wing in the hospital where they will put people who are end stage that are had come into the hospital for some reason. They declined, they're not stable enough for them to send them home.
Oh,
Like
gotcha.
my father, he wasn't stable enough to go home from Cleveland Clinic.
Right.
And so they put him in a private room. It was a palliative care room, and there's a difference between hospice and palliative, but not much.
Right,
But
right.
they let him stay in this room. And so this gentleman thought he could just check in and die there. And I said
Oh.
no. And he did want to die at home, and he did want to have his
And most
family
people
around.
do, I think. I'm sure you find that.
Yes.
Now, Karen, let me ask you this. What's
Mm.
the basic difference between hospice and and doula caregiving? Now, I know that
Yeah.
yours is
Good question.
self-pay. Yes, yours is
Hmm.
self-pay. Hospice is covered
Right.
majority by Medicare, Medicaid.
That's
So
right.
please explain a little bit about that as well.
Yes. So hospice is paid for through Medicare
Right.
and through private insurance companies. So if you're younger than 65 and you need hospice, then that will be covered. And I don't know of any time ever in my experience in 10 years as a hospice nurse that anybody had to pay anything.
Oh,
But
good to
occasionally
know.
you have to.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a medication that is not covered. But the premise is that you no longer want curative therapy once you come onto hospice, and if you don't want to go to the hospital in case your symptoms become, unmanageable. Usually, the hospice can manage them right there at the home. The difference is time. As a doula, I have time. I don't have a caseload like the hospice does. I
Okay.
don't say, okay, I'm going to have 10 families that I'm going to take care of. No, I don't do that. I take care of one family at a time because there's a lot of time that I have to give with all the things I do. And the other things that I do that I didn't mention, all the other things, is educating the family on the three stages of the end of life, which is your shock stage, and then there's your intermediate or stable stage, and then there's your transition. So, with this gentleman that I told you about that stopped treatment, I had
Mhm.
only seen him twice, and it happened so fast, and they had so many people coming to the house. Because when you start hospice at first, everybody wants to get in there and see you.
At the
The
last minute,
clergy, the
yes.
caregivers, the
Before you, yeah.
well, no, I mean, even if you're not on your way, they
Yeah.
still want to get in there to see what your needs are and how often they should come and that kind of thing. But like I said, on average, they're not there that often.
Okay.
So I come in and I do this education, and I'm also there to hear what is under what's being said. So
Okay.
sometimes when you hang around long enough, you hear things that you're like, oh, that's what's going on there. You're
Okay.
also there to help people move through the forgiveness process. A
Oh,
lot of families
really?
at the end of life, things come up
Yeah.
and
Regrets. You help
the
them walk
regrets
through
come
those
up. And how
regrets.
about we have a clean slate? So
Yeah.
I can help with that.
I love
And
that. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the things that you say to somebody when they're dying, we need to get people to say, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm
And I
sorry.
and I forgive
And
you.
I forgive you and
Yes.
I love you and thank you and peace be with you. I
Yeah.
wish you all the peace in your journey. And we
Karen,
need to get families to do that.
amen. Amen. We were talking frequently about how fractured families are today. And I don't
Mhm.
know that they were that way when I was growing up. I'm a lot older than you, but I don't remember that going on as much as it does
Yeah.
is today. And it's
Mhm.
heart-wrenching for me, even in my own
Mhm.
family, to see people,
Mhm.
separated and not talking over one thing or another. And my goal is to try and regroup, get them together. Let's move on. Life is too short. Let's
That's
forgive,
correct.
let's move on. You don't want to go into the next
Right.
world carrying all those burdens with you. Karen, what's the typical amount of time that you spend with one family? Walk us through a little.
It just depends. I'll go there and
Okay.
I'll be, helping out with things, and I can do everything except for giving medications
Okay.
and doing any kind of medical treatments, wound care, but
Okay.
I can do everything else. So if they need
Okay.
me to make them a light meal, if they need me to help turn them, change them, just meet the family. Maybe some other families are coming in and they want some education about what's going on.
Okay.
If maybe they want me to help with a eulogy, maybe they want me to help with a vigil. So the vigil I said is 24 to 48 hours before that person dies, and asking what kind of music would they have liked? What
Okay.
kind of food do you want me to make? Let's make some food that the person who's dying, what kind of food did they like that they would want you
Yeah.
to have?
Yeah.
And what did they want? Would they want you in the background? And that, so I'm non-medical. Hospice is medical.
Yes. Yes.
They're the
They can do
medical side of
the
it. They can
medication.
call the doctor and have the medications
Right.
changed. That's not what I do. However, if the medications come, and this happened so many times when I was a hospice nurse, I'd leave the house and then this comfort kit would show up that had all the different medications in it.
Yes.
Nobody was there to go over that with them.
Oh.
Nobody was there. And I remember this gentleman, he called us up. He was frantic because he had given his wife 3 times the morphine
Oh no,
than what was
accidentally?
ordered accidentally. And,
Accidentally? Oh
because
dear.
there's a dropper, it was liquid morphine, and the dropper was hard to see.
Oh,
It was like 3 or 4 times. And she had been sleeping, I think, for 18 hours. And he
oh,
called us up. I think I've killed my wife. He was so
oh
upset. And
dear.
we went over there and we did an assessment, and she was okay. She was just sleeping. And when she woke up, she said, "That's the best sleep I've ever had." So she was fine. But I think it's
I
really
love that.
helpful to have somebody walk you through that and
Oh
reassure
yeah.
you. Now, there's symptoms that happen towards the very end. There can be some loud breathing. And, there's things that we suggest that you should do. Roll them on their side, put the head up, put a little fan in the room to help with that. And if you don't have somebody there and you're hearing this sound, it can be pretty scary. And it's
Of
important
course.
for somebody to say, that's normal. This is what happens during a natural death. This is what happens.
And I
I want,
remember being with my mom when she was in a nursing home and she was passing, and there was this very loud, deep breathing noise. And I understand that that's very common when someone is passing.
it is. And
Yes,
there's medications for it that will help dry up the secretions.
right.
But
But it can
I
be a
want to,
scary thing. Yeah.
it can be very scary, but I want to go back to this book again, Being Mortal. There's another book that I love too that was written in 1899. It was a near-death experience a lady had. And we know that she didn't go on Oprah and make a lot of money on the book, but the book is called My Dream of Heaven.
Oh, I think
And
you
so,
told me about that book
yes,
before.
that's
Yeah.
just a beautiful book, that one too. But anyhow, this doctor explained why we're so afraid today, which
Oh,
was so perfect. So here's what happened. So prior to 1945, people died at home
right.
and they were surrounded by their neighbors, their family. The clergymen would come in. So people would be there. There'd be a vigil. There'd be food. People would be bringing food over. It was really
Exactly.
a community
I
event.
remember those days. Yeah.
There'd be prayers. If they were Catholic, there'd be rosaries.
Right.
There would be, we all got to be a part of it. We were all a
Exactly.
part of it. We got to see death and see how sacred it was. And then we actually washed the body. And a lot of times there was a funeral at home
Right.
or a wake at home, and wakes are starting to come back. They're doing more and more home
Right.
wakes.
Right.
So what happened is there was a lot of hospitals that were being built. And all of a sudden, this just boomed in the United States. And so that sacred passage of someone dying at home moved from in the home out to the hospital.
Yes,
And we lost that. And we became scared of it. Oh, they're dying, send them to the hospital. Oh, they're dying, send them
exactly.
to a nursing home.
Exactly. Frightened. Yeah.
And we've lost that sacred
That touch,
sacredness.
that personal
Hmm.
touch. Karen, I hate to
Hmm.
do this to you, but believe it or not, we could talk forever about this, but we're
We
almost
could.
running out of
Okay,
time. So I know you've mentioned a couple of books, but I want to get some very important information out here. How does
please
one
do.
contact you if they have questions, if they want to consult? Now,
Yes.
you can only help people in your particular city in Orange County, or can you help
No,
them anywhere
no,
across the United
we
States?
can actually do it on Zoom. We can talk to families and do
Oh, okay.
education. We can do
Good to
that. I
know.
told you about that, doing advanced directives. We can do that
Right, right.
online and send all the information. But I'm Canyon Doula, Canyon Doula at gmail.com.
Okay, and I see your plaque behind you, Doula of the
That's it.
Sacred Canyons.
I'm the doula of the Sacred Canyons, and you
That's
can
your
reach me
name.
at canyondoula at gmail.com.
And you're full of information and important information. We could go on forever. You and I had a bunch of other questions here. Real quick, I know that one of our friends had a book called I'm Dead, Now What? Now I heard you, I love that. I heard you mention that you give people some kind of a book or some kind of a,
I suggest that they get that book. So everything's in it. Your passwords, your account
yes,
numbers,
yes, that's,
everything. And you should
oh,
actually have a three-ring binder that has page, what are they called? The page protectors. People
oh
don't think
yeah,
about how they would need their car title. Your car title
exactly.
needs to be in there, your advanced
So you
directives,
can
your
sell it.
durable
Yeah,
power of
yeah,
attorney. You have to have all that paperwork in there.
yeah.
And yeah,
Your
we could talk
passwords
on
for
and on.
your email, very important. When my sister passed a year ago, I was flying back and forth to Kansas City, and unfortunately, she had to end up in hospice at the very, very last minute, and I was just heartbroken.
Oh,
But thank God there was someone like you who was there to hold her hand. I was in Cleveland, she
good.
was in Kansas, and there was a lovely, lovely young lady who was there with her when she
Oh.
passed. But I spent hours and days and weeks trying to get everything settled with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, checking accounts, bank accounts. So, as you said, it's vitally
Hmm.
important to do that
Hmm.
now. Don't wait five
Yeah.
years, 10 years down the road. Do it now while the
Mhm.
person is very cognitive, while they agree with you what they want to have done at their end of life. And
Mhm.
it's just all so important. Karen, any parting words before we go?
Yes, I would like to say that we don't like to talk about death very much, and we don't like to talk about grief either. And we used to put a black band around our arm when
Yes.
somebody had died, and we covered our front door. And now we're asking people to wear these green ribbons. I got this on Amazon,
Oh, oh,
to
nice.
show people that you are grieving. And right now the world is such a different place. And so
Amen.
it might be that
Amen.
you're just grieving the world has changed, and
Yes.
or you lost a family member. But this was started in Boise by DOULA Givers International, which is I'm a part of that.
Okay.
And we're trying to get the word out to wear your green ribbon for love, for compassion,
I
and
love
to be
that.
kind to one another.
Amen. Amen. I love that. I'm going to have to
Yeah,
send for one myself.
that's
Karen,
it.
thank you so much for being my
You're
guest today.
welcome.
This has been an invaluable
Thank you.
show, and I hope that my viewers and followers and listeners have enjoyed it. And if you want to get a hold of me, I can be reached at 50 Shades Gray Hair at gmail.com. And if you would like to visit my website and view a couple of my other podcasts, it's 50 Shades of Gray Hair of grayhair.com. So the email is 50 Shades Gray Hair at gmail.com. The website is 50 Shades of grayhair.com. Thanks so much for being a follower. And don't forget to
You
share
were
this with all of your
you
friends.
were delightful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you, Karen. And we'll do it again because we have a lot more things to talk about. Take care.
Okay.
God bless.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.